How a Threesome Saved My Marriage Part 1. The ice in our bed. If you had told me 3 years ago that a threesome would be the thing that saved my marriage, I would have laughed in your face. Or maybe cried. Or maybe done both, the kind of laugh that spills out when you're holding back something far heavier. Because 3 years ago, I was dying inside. Not from illness, from silence. My name is Lena, and I've been married to Malik for 10 years. 10 long, strange, beautiful, exhausting years. The kind of marriage that starts with fireworks and ends with the faint smell of smoke lingering in the sheets. We were passionate once. I remember that girl I used to be, bold, playful, unapologetically loud with her love. Malik used to chase me around the kitchen, whisper silly nothings in my ear, plan spontaneous weekend trips just to watch me smile. But somewhere between diaper changes, missed anniversaries, and job promotions, we lost each other. Or maybe we just let each other go slowly, like melting ice in a glass, not with a crash, but a quiet drip until there was nothing cold left. I used to think love died with a bang, betrayal, screaming, maybe even an affair. But that's not what happened to us. We just stopped. Stopped talking. Stopped touching. Stopped laughing. The silence grew louder than any argument could have been. I noticed it one night, a Thursday, I think. I was wearing this silk nightgown, navy blue, the one Malik once said made me look like a goddess. I walked into our bedroom, hopeful, heart thumping. He was on his phone, back turned, watching yet another sports highlight reel. I waited, cleared my throat, said his name. He turned briefly, smiled, and said, "You good?" "I'm wearing the dress," I said, trying to sound coy. He looked, blinked, and nodded. "You look nice, babe," then turned back to his phone. I lay beside him that night with tears in my eyes and my back to his. The space between us felt like a canyon. It was in that moment I knew we weren't fighting. We weren't even angry. We were simply disconnected. I told my best friend Tasha the next day. We were sitting in her sun-drenched kitchen, sipping wine before noon. Something only child-free women seem to have the luxury to do. "You guys need a spark," she said, chewing on a grape. "No," I corrected. "We need a fire. Something explosive." She raised an eyebrow, half joking. "Maybe you need a threesome." I choked on my wine. "I'm serious," she said, laughing. "Or maybe I'm not. But imagine it, a night where you're not just wife and husband, but two people exploring something new." "That sounds like a disaster," I muttered. "Or the beginning of something real," she said. "Sometimes what you think will break you is what wakes you up." I waved her off. But that night, the idea stuck in my head like a catchy song you hate but can't stop humming. Not because I wanted another woman, but because I wanted something, anything, to shatter the glass wall between us. In the days that followed, the silence between Malik and me grew thicker. We functioned, paid bills, picked up the kids, smiled at neighbors, but there was no us in the day. No secrets, no private jokes, no stolen kisses in the laundry room. One night, lying beside him again in that same cold bed, I whispered, "Do you think we're happy?" He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "I think we're surviving." And, "Is that enough for you?" Another long pause. "I don't know anymore." That night, I cried into my pillow, not because he'd said something cruel, but because he hadn't lied. And the next morning, while brushing my teeth, I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, what if Tasha was right? What if something outrageous is exactly what we need? Part 2. The proposal. It took me another week to bring it up. I rehearsed it in my head 100 times in the shower, on the drive to work, while folding laundry. Every version sounded either ridiculous or terrifying, but the silence between Malik and me had become unbearable. So I finally said it on a Wednesday night, over dinner, while the kids were at Grandma's. He was halfway through his grilled salmon when I blurted, "What would you say if I suggested a threesome?" He froze, fork mid-air, eyes locked on mine. Then slowly, he set the fork down. "Are you joking?" he asked. I shook my head, trying to keep my voice from trembling. "I'm not. I've been thinking. We're disconnected. We don't even touch anymore. And maybe what we need is something that scares us." He leaned back, watching me, searching my face for signs of sarcasm or a trap. "Why now?" he asked, Because I miss you, I said simply, and because I feel invisible in our bed. I want to feel something with you, even if it means inviting someone else in just once. Not because I want them, because I want us again. His silence stretched into minutes. I don't know what to say, he admitted. Say you'll think about it, I whispered. He did. For days. We didn't mention it, but something changed. A look in his eyes, the way he touched my hand when passing the remote. We were suddenly aware of each other again, not as roommates, but as lovers with a dangerous secret between them. The next week, he came home and said, if we're doing this, I want it to be someone we don't know. A stranger. No connections. Just one night. I nodded, surprised at the relief and terror that surged inside me. And just like that, we had stepped onto a trail neither of us could predict. Part 3. The search. You never realize how surreal something is until you're sitting in front of your husband, scrolling through profiles of women you might invite into your bedroom. Malik and I agreed to start slow. No apps specifically made for hookups. We wanted a bit more control. We settled on a private online forum known for couples exploring fantasies. The kind that required verification, long bios, and deep dive conversations before anything physical could happen. At first, we just browsed together cautiously, late at night when the house was quiet and the wine had taken off the edge. The women came in all shapes and stories. Some were experienced, others curious. Some were looking for emotional connection. Others were clear it was all about chemistry and control. We laughed nervously at some of the bios, exchanged side eyes over some of the racial photos, but mostly we talked, really talked. What are you afraid of? Malik asked one night, his hand on my knee. That it won't change anything, I said. That we'll go back to being strangers, he nodded. Or worse, that it'll change everything and we won't know how to come back from it. That night, we didn't scroll. We kissed. Not just a peck, a real full-bodied kiss. The kind we hadn't shared in months. It was awkward and beautiful. And it reminded me why I was doing this in the first place. A week later, we found her. Her profile name was reignited. 34, artist, bisexual, experienced with couples. Her message was thoughtful, not pushy. She'd been in a long-term relationship that had ended respectfully. Now, she was exploring on her own terms. What drew me to her wasn't her looks. Although she was striking, copper curls, golden brown skin, a wide smile that made you feel seen. It was her tone, gentle, respectful, curious. I'm not here to wreck anything, she wrote. If anything, I'd want to help you both see each other more clearly. We scheduled a video call. Malik was tense. I was nervous. But when Ray logged in, she made it easy. We talked like old friends about music, food, intimacy, vulnerability. She never once made it about sex. She made it about presence. Afterward, Malik looked at me and said, if we're doing this, I want it to be with her. I agreed. We set the date for 2 weeks later, a Saturday. The kids would be at my sister's. We booked a boutique hotel downtown, not wanting to do it in our home. Too personal. In the days leading up, everything felt heightened. Every glance, every accidental touch. Malik and I started flirting again, teasing, holding hands in the car. He left me notes. In the bathroom, I made him his favorite meals. It was as if inviting someone else and made us realize how much we wanted to hold on to what we already had. And yet, fear lingered. The night before, I couldn't sleep. Malik held me close and whispered, we don't have to go through with it. I know, I said, but I want to, with you. And I meant it, not because of lust, but because I finally felt like we were choosing each other intentionally, vulnerably, fully. Part 4. The night. The hotel suite was warm and low-lit, with candles flickering softly near the bed. I had brought them myself, little tea lights, lavender-scented. Something about the softness made the night feel less like a stunt and more like an experience. Ray arrived just before 8 p.m. She wore a silk burgundy wrap dress, hair in loose curls, and a small satchel slung over her shoulder. When she entered, the room didn't tense, it breathed. Wow, she said, taking in the space. This feels intentional. Thank you. Malik poured wine, and we sat, the three of us, on the couch. We didn't rush. We talked, laughed. Ray had a way of drawing stories out of us, stories we hadn't told each other in years. About our college days, our first awkward date, the way Malik proposed tongue-tied and trembling in the rain. After an hour, Ray stood. I know this is your first time, she said gently, so I'll follow your lead. If anything feels too much or too fast, just say the word. This isn't about doing everything. It's about feeling everything safely. I looked at Malik, and for the first time in months, I saw him not as the distant, stressed-out husband, but the man I fell in love with. His hand reached for mine. We kissed first, just the two of us. Then Ray stepped closer and touched my hair. Her fingers were warm, slow, asking for permission without words. She kissed my shoulder. I didn't flinch. Malik watched, breath caught in his throat. That it wasn't like porn. It wasn't some wild, tangled chaos. It was soft, intentional. It was three adults navigating a sacred storm carefully. There were moments when I panicked internally. What if I wasn't enough? What if he liked her more? What if this made things worse? But each time, Ray would glance at me, checking in. Malik would whisper something, "You okay?" And I really was. The lines between who touched whom blurred, and for a while, we were just bodies and sighs, laughter and skin. But beneath it all, there was something deeper. A return. A rediscovery. The three of us collapsed onto the bed, tangled and breathless. Hours later, Ray lay beside us, stroking my arm. "You two love each other deeply," she said. "I felt it the whole time. Thank you for letting me witness that." She didn't stay the night. She kissed us both on the cheek, thanked us again, and left quietly, like a breeze. Malik and I lay there silent, not out of discomfort, out of awe. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "That I've never felt closer to you," he said, and strangely, I felt the same, not because of what we did, but because of what it uncovered. The need, the honesty, the rawness. We fell asleep holding each other like we hadn't in years, tightly, with everything in between finally stripped away. Part 5. The morning after, the sun peeked in through the hotel curtains like it knew something sacred had happened. I woke up before Malik. His arm was draped across my waist, his face buried in my neck, breathing soft and steady. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waking up alone in a relationship that had gone numb. My body ached in unfamiliar places, but my heart felt strangely whole, not because the night was perfect, but because it was honest. When Malik stirred, he didn't rush to his phone. He looked at me. "Hey," he whispered, "hey." He touched my cheek gently. "How are you feeling?" I paused, scanning myself. Surprisingly grounded. He smiled, then kissed my forehead. We talked while we lay there. Not about the sex. At least not at first. We talked about the tension that had built for months. The resentment. The isolation. And then the courage it took to face it together. "I don't think it was about the threesome," I said eventually. "It was about doing something that forced us to be real with each other again." He nodded. "We've been lying to ourselves, pretending things were okay, ignoring each other because it was easier than confronting the disconnect." We went out for breakfast that morning, just the two of us. A cozy diner with chipped mugs and friendly waitresses who called us sweetheart. No one around us would have guessed what we had done the night before, over pancakes and coffee. We talked about rules, not for more threesomes necessarily, but for us. No more emotional withdrawal. No more avoidance. We'd check in every week, even if it was awkward. We'd name our needs, even if they felt selfish. And we'd never again wait until we were falling apart to tell each other the truth. Later that afternoon, Ray texted, "Ray, thank you for last night. It was beautiful and sacred. I wish you both continued healing and discovery, whatever that looks like." We thanked her, warmly and sincerely. And that was that. No entanglement, no obsession. Just a woman who helped light the match we were too afraid to strike on our own. That week, Malik and I had more sex than we'd had in the previous 6 months combined. But it wasn't just the frequency. It was the way we looked at each other with hunger. Yes, but also curiosity, like we were still learning who we were. Even after all these years, he started coming home earlier. I started smiling more. And when he touched me, it wasn't out of duty. It was out of desire. Part 6. Telling the truth. It started small. Malik holding my hand in public again, kissing me goodbye before work. Me, leaving notes in his jacket pocket or sending random texts during the day just to say I miss you. But then came the bigger shift, the conversations we had started having at night. Do we ever tell anyone? I asked one evening as we sipped wine on the back patio. Malik leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. Like friends, or family, or even a therapist. I don't know. We did something huge, and it changed us. He nodded slowly. I think, if we tell anyone, it has to be the right person. Someone who won't reduce us to a moment. Someone who understands growth. We tried to tell our therapist first, and to our relief, she didn't flinch. In fact, she leaned forward and smiled. Gently. It sounds like you didn't use sex to fix your marriage, she said. You used openness, vulnerability. The threesome was just the mirror that stayed with me. Still, it wasn't easy. I told my best friend, Jade, a few weeks later. We were having lunch, and I was bubbling with the need to share. You did what? She said, eyes wide. Before you judge, I'm not judging. I'm just surprised. That's bold. Brave even. But are you okay? I nodded. Honestly, we're better than we've been in years. To my surprise, she didn't distance herself. She didn't gossip. She just asked questions. Thoughtful ones. Was it scary? Yes. Would you do it again? Maybe, but not for the same reason. Do you love him more now? I paused. Yes, but differently. Deeper. Because we've both been seen. Not everyone we told understood. One friend ghosted me for a while. Another made jokes I didn't appreciate. But Malik and I held each other through it. And the most powerful truth was this. We no longer needed people's approval to define our intimacy. We had redefined it ourselves. One night, in bed, Malik whispered, it wasn't about what we did. It was about who we became because of it. I nodded into his chest. We became honest. He kissed the top of my head. We became free. Part 7. Beyond the fantasy. Months passed, and life began to settle not into a routine, but into something richer, more intentional. The threesome wasn't something we repeated, not because it was bad, but because it had served its purpose. The point was never to turn our marriage into an open one. It was about breaking the ice that had formed around our connection. Instead, we turned inward. We read books on intimacy, not just sexual but emotional. We did couples challenges, some fun, some confronting. We started going on quarterly marriage retreats of our own, just weekends where we unplugged and talked, touched, remembered, and slowly, we started mentoring other couples, not about threesomes, but about what happens when love goes quiet. When people start living as roommates instead of lovers. When the spark isn't just dimmed, but forgotten. We never glamorized our story. We didn't post it on social media or turn it into a podcast, but when the moment called for it, when someone sat across from us with eyes full of sadness and mouths too afraid to speak, we shared. We told them love is fragile, but it's also elastic. That intimacy can be rediscovered, but not without discomfort. And that sometimes, the only way to rebuild is to strip down emotionally, physically, truthfully. One night, a year after that unforgettable evening with Ray, Malik and I were lying in bed after making love. It was slow, deep, and quiet, the kind of lovemaking that feels like a language only two people understand. He turned to me, tracing circles on my bare shoulder. Do you regret anything? I thought for a moment. Only waiting so long to talk to you. To be real. He nodded. Same. We almost lost something beautiful. I rolled to face him, but we didn't. We found a way back. He smiled. We created a new map, and that's what it felt like. Not like we returned to the old version of our marriage, but like we discovered a new land. One we now walk hand in hand, braver, bolder, and completely, unapologetically together.